Hi, my name is Cheryl Arbelias, and this is Advanced Developmental Psychology, Psych 525 with Liberty University. Students were provided with 3 prompts in which they were asked to choose one of the following on which to comment, including: Number 1, how might an infant's temperament be related to the way in which attachment is classified? Are some temperament characterizations more likely to show up in infants in certain attachment categories? Explain. Number 2, with regards to attachment styles, what types of external factors would help shape these models as the individuals grow throughout their lives? Is it possible to change your attachment style? If so, how? If not, why? Number 3, can attachment theory explain abusive relationships? If so, how? If not, why? The prompt I selected on which to comment was number 3. Can attachment theory explain abusive relationships? If so, how? If not, why? But before answering the question, information should be provided about attachment theory. The development of attachment theory began in the 1930s and was the collaborative work by John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth, who joined Bowlby in the 1950s. Bowlby and Ainsworth initially worked independently of each other, but both were influenced by Freud and other psychoanalytic theorists who were interested in how personality develops. They sought to study how one's attachment with a maternal figure in infancy affects their personality development in later life. Bowlby became interested in the link between maternal loss, deprivation, and personality development after graduating from the University of Cambridge in 1928, where he volunteered to work with maladjusted children at a school. As seen with other theorists, Bowlby made observations while working with the children. As described in The Origins of Attachment Theory, John Bowlby and Mary Ainsworth by Ing Bretherton, Bowlby observed the behaviors of the children at the school and noticed that one child who had been expelled from his previous school for theft was very isolated, remote, and affectionless. He noted the teenager had had no stable maternal figure in his life. Bowlby also observed a second child who was around the age of 7 or 8 and followed Bowlby around and was also known as his shadow. These experiences set Bowlby's professional life on course and persuaded him to pursue a career as a child psychiatrist in which he studied the effects of early family relationships on personality development. Ainsworth was interested in security theory. One of the major tenets of the theory suggested that infants and young children should develop a secure dependence on their parents before launching into unfamiliar situations. Both Bowlby and Ainsworth made naturalistic observations and collected data from hospitalized and institutionalized children who were separated from their parents. There are 4 main types of attachment styles, including secure attachment, avoidant attachment, ambivalent attachment, and disorganized attachment. With secure attachment, one may recognize that the baby cries when the mother leaves, but are happy and search for comfort when she returns. With avoidant attachment, babies show little emotion when the mother leaves or returns. With ambivalent attachment, babies are difficult to comfort on the mother's return and show either anger or desperate neediness toward her. With disorganized attachment, babies who do not fit in any of the above categories and have no consistent way of dealing with stress may see these contradictory behaviors. Ainsworth developed a 20-minute, 8-episode laboratory procedure known as the strange situation, in which the mother and infant were in a laboratory playroom and were joined by an unfamiliar woman. The point of the study was to evaluate the child's response following the mother's return from when she left the room for short periods of time. Ainsworth was specifically intrigued in the child's reaction to the mother once the mother re-entered the room. Bowlby and Ainsworth, like Freud, developed theories that the development of a child at infancy, including one's attachment to a maternal figure, had profound effects on their personality developments as adults. That takes us back to the question at hand. Can attachment theory explain abusive relationships? If so, how? If not, why? The answer is yes. According to Miller, secure attachment is the most common attachment pattern, and maternal sensitivity influences attachment patterns. A secure attached infant leads to later social and cognitive competencies. In addition, Miller noted that secure attachment is predicative of effective social functioning during childhood, adolescence, and later in life. However, when an individual has an insecure attachment, may show various sorts of psychopathology later in life. In 1987, Hazan and Shaver developed a self-report questionnaire in order to measure adolescent and adult romantic attachment observations. They asked their study research participants to indicate which attachment style best characterized their feelings and behaviors in romantic relationships. If they sense a threat to their environment, individuals could become defensive as a way to control the threat they feel as a result of having a disorganized attachment to their maternal caregiver. Some mothers respond more sensitively to their infants than do others. A mother's mode of communication then biases her child's development of working models, and the cycle continues. So if an individual has a disorganized attachment to a maternal figure as a child, they will have a similar type of disorganized attachment in a relationship. According to Brennan, high correlations exist between one's attachment and their attachment in relationships. Brennan et al. Said that the high correlations of 60 attachment subscales were especially impressive, given that each measure was developed under a different conceptual rubric and for a different research purpose. Miller says, quote, "Today, attachment is seen as a lifelong process of forming affectionate bonds with various people, including romantic partners. In fact, assessments of adult attachment styles have been developed and related to various kinds of social relationships, including parenting," unquote. To further explain the implications of attachment theory, Dr. Chad Magnuson discussed additional applications to attachment theory that he said started around 1990. This application is looking at one's attachment to God. In the same way that this week's study looked at our attachment as infants and then later our attachment in relationships as adults, the application is made to one's relationship to God. Dr. Magnuson discusses a model of attachment by Chris Fraley from the University of Illinois. One that has a secure attachment has a healthy view of self and of God and seeks intimacy with God. They know God will never leave nor forsake them. Hebrews 13:5 reads, "Let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as ye have. For he hath said, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee." King James Version. One who has preoccupied attachment has a positive view of God and a negative view of the self. Because a person has a negative view of themselves, they are worried that God will leave them because they are not good enough. They want to have intimacy with God, but they worry he will abandon them and they will have to earn his favor. Philippians 4:8 reads, "Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things." King James Version. One who has a fearful, avoidant attachment has a negative view of self and a negative view of God. Whether the person is drawing close to God or pulling away, they are fearful because of the negative view they have of self and of God. Someone with a dismissing, avoidant attachment has a positive view of self and a negative view of God. They see God as not being reliable and that they can't trust him. He can't be trusted, so they place all of their trust in themselves. I would like to share a brief personal story. In 2009, I went through a difficult time with a friend who ridiculed me about everything, from the fact that I was a stay-at-home mom, to my religion, to my weight, and to my family in general. That was a trying time in my life, but one that God allowed because it was through those circumstances that led me to becoming a life coach. That experience afforded me the opportunity to work with clients and offer them hope and comfort that only comes through Christ. I know and understand that when we understand how one feels and the worldview from which they have their own understanding, we can offer them hope that we have received. Because I had a secure attachment and a healthy view of self, no matter what the individual told me, it gave me the strength to get back up after I had been knocked down, and to lean on Christ for healing and comfort. Because of the comfort He gave me, I now can offer the same hope and reliability to others who need Him, because I can clearly see that those who do not have secure attachments have a more difficult time searching for intimacy with Christ. Having this knowledge and understanding of attachments with individuals helps me to help them. This is a list of references used in this presentation. Thank you for listening.